Hi there, fellow guitarists. Josh Rogers here. Uh, Thank you all for joining me. Sorry, my voice is a little bit croaky. It's super early in the morning here in New Zealand. So I've just written a little comment there. If you're joining the live stream, just let me know where you're watching from. If you want, leave your name. I just made a big blunder early there, as you can see in the chats. So my apologies, in my guitarist, for confusing your name with the name of your guitar. So I'm going to give myself an excuse and say it's because it's 5 a.m. in the morning in New Zealand, and my mind still isn't quite where it should be. But yeah, thanks to everyone for joining. So as you know, the purpose of this live stream is to address tremolo and the challenges that we all tend to face with tremolo as a classical guitarist. I know that from my years of doing YouTube, that tremolo is one of the techniques that seem to plague or give most classical guitarists a bit of trouble and sleepless nights. It's tremolo, and it's completely understandable because it's quite a strange technique, and it makes us use this finger, unless you're Anna Vidovich, and she just uses these two, which I haven't seen anybody else do it like that. Index, middle, index. I think that's what she does. So in that regard, she's her tremolo is quite special, but you'd never know that she wasn't doing AMI, which is the standard way of doing it, or the generally accepted way of doing tremolo. So yeah, that's the purpose of this live stream, is to just have a look at tremolo and try to understand how you can improve yours. And so one of the first things I'm going to have a look at before I do, France, hello. Oh, the Rugby World Cup is happening in France, isn't it? I just saw the All Blacks have a very, very tough victory against Ireland yesterday morning. I was on the edge of my seat. I had to turn the commentary off because I was getting too nervous. I've been to France, had a lovely time in Paris and Marseille. I think that's how you say it. I've got a good friend that I used to be in a band with, and he lives in Marseille with his wife. I had a great time in France, and I got to see the Louvre and Notre Dame. It wasn't long after I left, and then unfortunately Notre Dame caught on fire. But I did get to see it before all that happened, and for that I'm very grateful. Anyway, I digress. So let's have a look at tremolo. So what is tremolo? It's the idea. The idea of tremolo is to make your guitar sound like it's playing a continuous single line. Usually, it's the melody, and the idea was to make it sound like a violin or a human voice, even. That continuous, uninterrupted sound. This is a guitarist's attempt at sounding like a violin or a stringed instrument or a human voice, so that it's continuous. So the idea behind it is that we're trying to make a continuous melodic line that doesn't have a gap in it. Of course, that's impossible. Nevertheless, we do try. So one of my main tips when you're trying to improve your tremolo is to really use your ear. Now you might be thinking, "Oh, Josh, yeah, I know. I mean, of course, it's music. I always use my ear," but it's what you're listening for that's the most important thing. We all hear things, but sometimes we're not really listening. So one of the main things with a tremolo is to make sure that all the notes are at an even volume. So I'm just going to adjust my camera a little bit. I've got a completely new setup. I don't know if any of you have seen my live streams before, but I just used to use the camera on the computer and the camera's microphone as well. But now I have a completely different setup. So if you can, please let me know how it sounds. I'm using this for my mic. That's a Zoom H6. So I've got that, and I've got my GoPro Hero 11 just off to the left, so it captures a bit of a wider view. Yeah, you can see my whole room now, and a bit of a better angle of the guitar. Let me see. Oh no, that's horrible. Ugh. Whew. Sorry about that. I'm just trying to figure everything out. So bear with me, people. I'm trying to make sure to improve the level of the live stream. Improve the quality of the live stream. So that's why I've got my my GoPro set up, and the Zoom H6 is my microphone and audio interface. That's awesome. Oh, thank you very much. I'm glad that it looks and sounds much better in my guitar music. Thank you for the feedback. What I was getting back, what I was starting to talk about was the listening. And we're trying to make sure that our tremolo sounds even. So if we just have a look at the most popular piece that everybody has probably heard, it's Recuerdos de la Alhambra by Terega, of course, as in my guitar music has just left a comment. And if we look, let's just look at the A major section. Well, what we're trying to listen for is to make sure that all of those notes sound very even. And what I mean by even is at the same volume. So we're trying to make sure that everything is like la 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 la, 1 2 3 4, da 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 da, not da 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 da, or da 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 da. We're going for a very even tone. That's where your ear is really has to be tuned in to make sure that the notes are at the exact same volume. I personally think someone with the best tremolo around out now is Shuifei Yang from China. But I think she's based in England. I'm not quite sure where she lives. But her tremolo, I think, is probably one of the best at the moment. So we're looking, or we're listening for that nice even tone. Not something like this. That makes it sound uneven because it's uneven. The volume is uneven. I know a lot of guitarists tend to think that it's the speed of the tremolo that makes a tremolo sound good, and that's part of the story. However, if you could have this fastest tremolo in the world, and if one of the notes or a couple of the notes sound at a different volume, it's not going to sound that smooth. So you're better to have a slower tremolo where the notes are far more even. Okay, so as I said, make sure you're listening to your tremolo all the time, making sure that your notes sound at the same volume. That's going to be one of the biggest ways to improve your tremolo. It's just making sure that that volume is even. So if you're one of the notes is is too soft, you have to identify which one it is. That's another key. Another key tip is to find out which finger or fingers are the offending ones. So, for example, if I'm doing this, I have to think, oh, which of my fingers is making that really loud? And in this case, it's the middle finger. So you might be thinking, oh, how can I even find that out if I'm going really fast? Slow down. Slow down. That's the idea of practicing. You can do things slowly and it gives you a chance to analyze where you might be going wrong, or which areas need improvement, or which finger is the finger that's causing the issue. So only your ear can help you with that. This is not something that you can really see. If you're playing something like this, you can see that. You can see what's going wrong. But with that tremolo, because most of it relies on your ear, it can be difficult to identify where the issue is. That's why I think most people tend to struggle with tremolo, is because they think they can see the problem, but actually you have to hear the problem. So just remember that if you have one takeaway from it, this is something you hear, and it's not always obvious what's causing that problem. Okay, so that's the first tip. Make sure you're listening, and that everything, each of the 4 notes, or however many notes might be in the tremolo you're playing, they all sound nice and even at the same volume. Okay, so the next tip we're going to have a look at is the gaps. So another problem, really common problem, is that there is a gap between 2 of the notes, an uneven gap. So you might have da 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 da, something like that. That's the next biggest problem, and it's usually between the thumb and the annular finger. So if we're looking at tremolo, it's usually thumb, annular, middle, index. Thumb, annular, middle, index. And we're just sort of going like that. It's actually quite a natural motion if you think about it. Most of us can do this. It's a fairly natural thing. So what happens with tremolo, one of your fingers usually gets trapped on a string and it slows it down. So what we're trying to do is get this nice even tremolo. What I mean when I use even this time, it's the gap between the notes. So there, I'm trying to make sure that everything sounds like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice and even. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. No gap. You want it to sound almost like the most boring thing in the world. Very even. So how do we fix it if we have a gap somewhere? That's the big question. How do we fix the problem of a gap? The first thing is Like I said, tremolo is all about listening. So you have to identify if you have a gap, and if you do, where is that gap? So let me give you an example of a gap in tremolo, the most common one. There. So there's I've got a gap between P and A, which are these two, thumb and annula, and thumb and index. So it starts to sound very stop-starty, very almost like stuttering. It's a stuttering tremolo. So how do we fix those gaps? Let's say you have a gap between these two. So your tremolo sounding like this. So you're hearing distinct groups of four. Da 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 instead of da 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 da. So you've got to listen. Da 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 da. And if it sounds like that, you know the gap is between these two because you've already done your four da 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 da, which is thumb, annular, middle, index. You've done those, and then there's the gap. Da 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 da. So you know you've identified using your ear that the gap is between these two fingers, thumb and index. Okay, so that's the first step. That's the biggest step of all, if you ask me, is just finding out where that is, where that gap is. Oh, one last breath. Nah, man, I'm not ready. I've been busy preparing for another recital that I've got coming up in January. But one last breath, yeah. Nah, I could probably do that pretty easily, I reckon. Yeah, so where was I? Ah, yes. So we've got a gap. We've identified it between these two fingers, thumb and index. So how are we going to do it? What we're going to do is create a rush between those two fingers instead. So we're going to do something like this. Like that. Oh, let me do it on one string. So there, I'm going to rush it between index and the thumb, like that. Da, 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 da. That kind of thing. So I'm speeding up the gap between index and thumb. Before the gap was too big, now I'm making it too short. And you might be thinking, well, what? You're just creating another different weird rhythm. No, the point is you have too big of a gap between those two fingers. So by decreasing the gap between those two, hopefully it should even your tremolo out when you bring it up to speed. So it sounds funny at the beginning. But after you keep practicing that, hopefully your overall tremolo would have smoothed itself out. So the trick there, or the tip, is when you're listening to your tremolo, and you'll keep hearing me saying that throughout this live stream, when you are listening, not hearing, when you're listening to your tremolo, you need to identify where that gap is and cut the distance between those two notes. So if you've discovered that it's between P and I, then make that distance shorter, or make the length of the notes shorter between them. Another common area where tremolo seems to have a gap is between P and A, so you end up with this type of tremolo. That kind of so when you hear that, you can hear that there's a gap between a note somewhere. So these four are going nicely. A, M, I, P, but then I've got a gap before I can do that again. Just before I carry on. Actually, I just mentioned in a bit of it a little bit earlier in the live stream. I think it's fine, the technique. Really, if you're getting things right and you're not hurting yourself in the process, which can happen if you have poor technique. There's a few guitarists out there, and they, I mean, the way they play is amazing. But you have to make sure that your technique doesn't hurt you. So I have no issue at all with Anna's technique. I mean, she's probably one of the best. She's elite level. I've watched many of her performances on YouTube. Sadly, I've never seen her in person, but I've got nothing to say about her. The way that she does her tremolo, I think it's absolutely phenomenal, and the fact that she can get it to sound like that, with what most of us would think is a very unusual fingering for tremolo, it's mind blowing, and it just goes to show how amazing and secure her technique is. Not sure how that happened, really. Why she has such a distinctive tremolo technique with PMIM. Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. I've tried it. I can't really do it. So yeah, I love her technique, her tremolo technique. You'd never know. I mean, if you were listening and you didn't know that that's how she was doing it, you'd think she was just doing it like everybody else, PAMI. So that's awesome. I think that she can do it like that. I mean, good on her. Yeah, it would be interesting to know how she developed that, eh? That's something that would be worthy. If she ever goes live at some point, we could ask her, Anna, how did you come up with PMIM for your tremolo and not PAMI? Yeah. If anyone in there that's watching knows, please leave a comment there so we can all learn. Yeah, so we're getting back to the identifying a gap. So if we found out that we have the gap between P and A, which is these two fingers here, and we've got this sort of thing going on. Then we need to do the same thing. We need to shorten that gap. Oh, so that's it. She believes the A finger is weaker than I and M for us mere mortals. Yeah, us mere mortals. Isn't that the truth? Oh, I didn't realize that. I never really thought of the annular finger as being that weak. What do you think? I think the annular finger is quite a strong finger, actually. Yeah, especially because it's kind of directly in line with the thumb. Hey, yeah, that's an interesting one. This finger, the pinky, that's the one that I think most people tend to think is weak. I never really thought of the annular finger as being a weak finger. But hey, who am I to say? She's mighty. As you said, we're just mere mortals, and Anna is Anna. So if she says the A finger is weak, then it's weak. I have to send it to the gym. Yeah, so where was I? Yeah. So the gap between the thumb and the annular finger. So that's going to make a tremolo sound a little bit like this. It's funny playing it with a gap. So as you can see, that's a bit tough to listen to, isn't it? But you can hear I've got those 4 notes sounding pretty good, right? So my PMI sounds decent. I've got the 4 running together, so it sounds. So that's the 4. Most people would think, hey man, yeah, that's cool, that's fast enough. Hey there, Tootie. Bro, are you the guy that was from Turkey? Was it Turkey? And you tuned in last week? Oh, so the recital that I'm doing is coming up in January. But actually, yesterday, I joined this. I was invited to this group called PAW, which is Performers Anxiety Workshop. And it was about 7 classical guitarists from New Zealand there. And yeah, it was amazing. It's the first time I played in that type of situation and ever, really. Believe it or not, it may not appear like this, but I get really nervous when I'm playing classical guitar in front of a lot of people, or even just a few people. For some reason, when I live stream like this, it's a bit different because you guys are out there. I don't really know you or anything like that, and it just feels different. But yesterday, I was just a wreck. I was playing. What was I playing? Sorry, I digress a little bit, but I was playing Waltz Opus 4, number 8 by Barrios. And I know this piece. I know that piece like the back of my hand. Anyway, I was playing that, and I had to stop. I had to stop at about. My fingers were shaking that much. I just gave up. It was just ridiculous. Yeah, 2D man, it happens, eh? A lot of people think it doesn't happen to me. Probably because I do these live streams. I've got so many videos on YouTube and that, but it's easy to do those videos for me because, well, for a start, the ones I upload, like the non-live stream ones, I'm just in my room with a camera, and it's easy, and there's no reason for me to get nervous. But yeah, for some reason, I get nervous when I'm playing classical guitar. Now, I've given thousands of performances live in front of thousands of people as well, all around the world, and I don't get nervous if I'm playing acoustic guitar and I'm just strumming along or I'm doing some electric and that. It's fine. Yeah, but it was one of those things. But I'm glad I did it because I need to be playing live to actual living people a lot more. Not like the live stream. This is a little different because I could see them all watching me and all that kind of thing. So it was a good experience. It was a great experience. Oh, 2D bro. Yeah. It's something that plagues us all, isn't it? Well, not all of us, but I remember Julian Bream, he said that he didn't get nervous when it was on his, what was it, that video, My Life in Guitar, something. It's the one when he's with John Williams and I think Jose Romanillos. Then Jose Romanillos and Julian are playing cricket. Yeah, great video. But I think he said he doesn't really suffer from. He never really suffered from nerves. And well, what? That's kind of amazing. I always thought we needed a little bit of nerves. You know what? I'm not sure. I've heard other people say that Julian did get nervous. Whether he did or not, I'm not sure. He was talking about when he was quite young, and I think his father took him to some type of classical guitar group meeting in London or somewhere like that. And he said the adults were there and they were just a wreck playing, and he got up and played Study in B minor by Fernando Sor, and he wondered what the big deal was. So I don't know if he got nervous or not. Maybe. I was watching John Williams playing just the other day on YouTube, of course, and yeah, he was playing the Chaconne by Bach, and I don't know, with John, like you'd never think it. Whether they're nervous or not, I'm not sure. But I can tell you that those people that they do an incredible job of covering their nerves. I'm not sure how they do it. If they're just naturally like that, or if they've performed so many times live in those types of situations that they've just not become immune to it, but they're just so comfortable. Probably that's the word I'm looking for. They're probably so comfortable in that environment that it doesn't phase them anymore. It could be like when your first day on the job, a new job, and you're kind of nervous, you don't know anybody, and you're going around and you meet people, and the nerves are there. But after you've worked with everyone for about a week, you're fine. It could be something like that. They've just done it so often. I think that's what it is for me when I'm performing in different circumstances. I'm fine, but when I'm on my classical guitar and there's a bunch of people watching, I don't know. It's quite funny too. After that phone call, after that anxiety workshop, the guy that runs the workshop, his name's David Byron. Very nice guy. It's got a beautiful collection of lutes. Very enthusiastic player. He asked me to stay behind after the meeting, and he said, "Josh, I'm amazed you had nerves. I didn't think you got nervous." But yeah, I do, and it's something I'm working on. Yeah, it's a work in progress. Okay, so let's head back to the live stream purpose, which is tremolo. So we were looking at the gap between thumb and annular, which if you have that gap, your tremolo is going to sound a bit like machine gun bursts. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. It's going to sound a little bit like that. How do we get rid of that? What we need to do is make the gap between P and A quicker or shorter, make that gap shorter. So we're going to go for this type of sound. So we've got da 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 da. Can you guys understand what I mean? So we've identified that the gap is between the thumb and the annular finger. So what we're going to do is play those two, bring those two together more closely. So instead of going for da 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 da, we're going to go for da 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 da. those two much quicker together. Like that. And then hopefully that triggers your brain into realizing, oh yeah, the gaps between P and A. That's all it is. Now that you can play them faster, your tremolo should smooth up. For those of you that have just joined the live stream, we're discussing tremolo and firstly how to identify where your issues are with tremolo, and then how to employ some tactics to your technique to help you smooth your tremolo out. If you've just joined, one of the big things I believe that cause people issues with their tremolo is their own ear. They're not listening properly, or they can hear something's wrong, but they're not really sure what it is. So you can hear something and you're like, oh, I know my tremolo's a bit dodgy, but I don't know what is dodgy about it. And one of the big things is making sure everything is at the same volume. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to make your tremolo sound really gappy, even though there isn't a gap. You might be playing your tremolo perfectly in time, but as soon as you make one of the notes louder or one softer, it sounds gappy, like you know what I mean? So we're trying to make sure that all the volume is the same. Hey, Leslie, are you talking about the sound of the guitar? For all of you that have joined in that have been watching me before, I hope you're noticing my new setup. You can see much more of the guitar, me playing. You can see a bit of my room, and I've got a much better microphone set up here. I'm using the Zoom H6, and I've got my GoPro set up as well. So hopefully it'll get better and better and better as the live streams progress. So yeah, just let me know if this live stream sounds better than it did before. I hope it does. I was trying to check how it sounded with the Zoom H6, but I couldn't. YouTube doesn't really have that facility for you to check beforehand. Well, especially for the video, it doesn't really have like an advanced what do you call it? Preview. It doesn't really have that preview feature unless I'm missing it. So if anybody knows, please let me know, and then I'll be able to find a really good angle and improve the sound even more. Yeah. Can you play tremolo without nails? Yeah, of course. You can play the guitar without nails. I think lute players, for example, they use no nails at all. And there's plenty of guitarists out there. I don't know about really famous guitarists that play without nails. As far as I know, every prominent guitar player uses nails. So yeah, I would say, yeah, of course you can play tremolo without nails. You can play the guitar without nails in general. However, how well it's going to sound, that's another thing, because the nails give us very nice articulation. And we can get a really nice sound. Without nails, I'm not sure. I've played for nails. For nails. I've played with nails for my whole life. Occasionally, I've broken them and I've had to play without. And for me, it just sounds. It's not just the sound; it's the control over the string too. I feel like, I don't know. It's almost like trying to grab something with your fist. and you're trying to grab something with like that, it just feels weird. For someone that's never used nails, they're probably fine. They make no difference to them, I guess. Melodia from Six Pieces Characteristicas by Todoba. No, I haven't. Is it all tremolo? By the way, yeah, let me know where you're watching from. That'd be cool. If you want to share your real name, that's cool as well. Mainly. Oh, awesome, Pete. From England. Awesome. Awesome. I like England. I've been out there 3 times. Sorry, people, I'm just opening my phone because I want to write down that note. So I'm just putting that in. Melodia from Six Pieces so that I can check it out. This is why I love live streaming, because I get to interact with people, with all of you that are around the world, and you share little things like this with me. Melodia Six Pieces Stickers by Todoba. I'm sure they must be beautiful. Todoba's mean. Okay, so I've written that down. Don't think I was, abandoning you for my phone. It was just to write down the notes that Pete from England has shared with me today. Oh, Peter. Hey, Peter. Yes, I think so. I just finished talking about if you can play tremolo with nails, without nails, I should say. Tootie, are you the guy from Turkey? I think I asked you before. I can't remember. I think you can. Personally, I think if you're used to playing without nails, I can't see why you'd have a problem playing tremolo without nails. I mean, if you can play the guitar, you can play like that without nails. Oh, Romania. Sorry, buddy. Yeah, if you can play without nails, anything else, I don't see why tremolo should cause you any consternation. So yes, I believe you can play tremolo without nails. If anyone here is playing guitar without nails, let us know. And if you've tried tremolo and how you've gotten on with it. But yeah, Peter, just to reiterate, I do. I think you can play tremolo without nails. I did mention just before that I've got nails. Everyone can see that. Yeah, those are my nails. And I've been playing with nails since I started guitar, which is 33. Oh no, about 36 years ago. I started playing guitar when I was 13. And actually, I had really long nails. I had no idea, because my guitar teacher back then, he was awesome, awesome guy, Peter Thwaites. He now lives in Australia. I think he was from Australia originally, but when he was teaching me, he was in New Zealand. And we started, well, he was already playing classical guitar. He was a great bass player. Wow, wicked bass player. But he was also learning classical guitar. And I started along. And by the time I finished, he and I were sitting the same grade. But anyway, I digress. I didn't know anything about nails, and I don't think he taught me anything about shaping them or anything like that. So when I went to university and I did my audition, and I managed to get in, and I went to my first guitar lesson at uni, my guitar teacher pulled me aside and said, "Josh, what are these?" And my nails were, they were so long. And he said, "Josh, you don't need nails that long." And then he showed me how to shape them and all this sort of stuff. So that was awesome. I had no idea. I didn't even know you were supposed to shape your nails, really. He was the one that taught me all that. Yeah, and his name was William Bauer. So I can't really say uh, how well you can play, or if tremolo can be played with it without nails from a first, personal perspective or personal experience. But I think you can. I'm pretty sure you can. And I think if your grandson starts out like that, he's going to be fine. But what you can tell him, Peter, is that I think also people that haven't played before, and you tell and you say to them, "Look, I think you need nails." I think they have this impression that your nails need to be about that long to play. But the truth is, your nails barely stick out past the tip of the finger. So, there, can you guys see that? If you really looking at my nails, and I think most classical guitarists that have been taught how to have their nails or how to shape their nails, they're not long at all. They barely protrude past the tip of the finger. So, Peter, if I would recommend using nails, and just let your grandson know that they don't have to be. They're not like ladies' long nails that have come out of a having a manicure or a pedicure or whatever, and they're sticking out centimeters past the tip of their finger, just past. Yeah, so just past. Yeah, actually, because I know most of you probably understand that your nails are supposed to go on a ramp. So your string is if your string had eyes, it would be looking at your fingernail like a ramp. Hey, g'day, Greg. Yeah, I think most guitarists do. Most classical guitarists, I'm pretty sure, use nails. I've taught a lot, and the reason I know, Peter. So I'm addressing you, Peter Molnar. The reason I know is because I've taught heaps of kids at school. I used to be a high school teacher here in New Zealand, an itinerant music teacher, and I've taught at, I think, about 7 high schools. And I know from what my students used to say, a lot of them used to say, "Oh, I don't want to grow my nails. I don't want to stick them out." A lot of rugby players, and sports is pretty big here in New Zealand, and a lot of them were worried that they were going to snap their nails or something. And fair enough. I mean, it's a fair enough concern. But when I used to show them mine and say, "No, look, you only need them this long," most of them were, "Oh, I thought I needed to have." No, because let's be honest, most classical guitarists are men, males, and most males don't know anything about their nails. You tell them, "Oh, you got to grow your nails for classical guitar," and the first thing that pops into their head is nails that they've seen females with, those long fake nails or whatever, and they think, "Oh God, do I have to grow my nails like that?" No. So yeah, just I know I'm taking a long time to answer this question, but I think there's if you just tell him and show him that this is how long his nails need to be, he might come around and he might grow them, unless there's some other reason why he doesn't really want to. He might think his friends are there'll be a little bit of derision there. I know it's been a crack up. Some people have turned up to my place and they see me with my nails, my nail kit. Here's my trusty nail kit. I've got this thing, buffer. I don't like using emery paper. This, and people turn up and they see me doing. They see me, I don't know if you've seen some of my videos before, but I was a pretty big guy. Some people used to ask how you get arms like mine and all that sort of stuff. So they see me. They even used to see me come to school and thought I was the physical education teacher. And then next minute I'm there, going like this, filing my nails, and they're like, "What's this guy up to?" Filing his nails. So there's that too. Stigma is the word I'm looking for. There could be some type of stigma attached to manicuring your nails. Oh yeah, the old fake nails. Yeah, I've used those on the odd occasion, just a few times in my life. I think when I had a couple of recitals years ago and broke a nail, as you do. And that's when I got into the fake nails. Pretty good. Yeah, pretty good idea. Quite fortunate to have them. Yeah, so we don't have that long left in the live stream, about 10 minutes. I just try to keep these to an hour early on a Monday morning. It's when I start these, it's 5 a.m. here in New Zealand. And I've got a son, so I usually end up looking after him from about 6 o'clock on. So I just wanted to recap before I have to leave. I just want to recap what I think that the best thing is to help you develop your tremolo or fix any issues, and that is to listen. I've said it a few times during the live stream, and I'll say it again. What do I mean by listening? You have to listen to your tremolo closely and try to determine what the issue or issues are. Tremolo is one of those things that there's a misconception, and I think this is the thing that hurts a lot of us guitarists. There's a misconception that tremolo is all about speed, that you have to be blasting those notes out of the guitar as fast as you possibly can, and that is the key to a good tremolo. That is only part of the story. The truth for a really good tremolo is how smooth you can make that and how even you can make it. So what we're searching, what we're trying to do is have complete control over it. And so we're going for complete control over the volume. So we want all four notes, and I say four notes because that's the type of tremolo that classical guitarists tend to use the most often. P-A-M-I. We want those four notes to sound at the same volume, like this. A nice, even volume. That's what we're searching for, or that's what we're striving for. So make sure your notes are at the same volume. If one is sticking out too far or not enough, then you need to identify which finger is the one that is making the loud note or the quiet note. So back then it was the middle finger. Notice I haven't changed anything in my tremolo, but it sounds odd. Right? It sounds broken because one note is too loud. So we need to identify that finger and then pull it back into line. Yeah, so just to Greg, just to say, mute the strings. Now, I've read Scott Tennant's advice on that, which is this. And I think what he's doing also is playing at every note staccato. I think it's a great piece of advice, actually, and I'm glad you brought it up. And that's to play staccato. But also, one of the main things I'm trying to get across here in this live stream is to make sure that you're listening. As I brought up before, some people hear, but they're not really listening closely, and it can be very difficult. As most of you probably know, we tend to learn on our own in the privacy of our own room, and no one is listening. Would most of you agree on that? If you agree, just type yes in the comments. If you don't agree, say you disagree and tell me why. But for the most part, musicians tend to spend heaps of time alone in their own room, and they're just analyzing everything themselves. So it's kind of like self-regulating. It's just you, your guitar, your room, and sometimes you just don't know what you're up to. You can't figure it out. And not that many people, unless you're at a conservatory or studying with heaps of other guitarists or something, you probably don't know anybody that you can just roll up to in your circle of friends and say, "Hey, bro, can you please check my tremolo? I think I'm experiencing a bit of a tonal variation between the annular and middle fingers." And they're just going to look at you, even if they're your best friend, and like, what? They, they don't know. So it's up to us to try to figure all this stuff out. So I encourage you to listen really closely to your tremolo and try to identify. That's if you think you've got an issue with your tremolo. Sit there and listen really closely. Oh, is one of my notes too loud? Is one of my notes too soft? Go through and try to determine which finger or fingers are causing the issue. That's one. Nice even volume. So I know, it's my middle finger. Or the thumb. The thumb's also, of course, the thumb's the strongest digit we have. But when we're initially trying to develop our tremolo, we want even the thumb to sound as if it's just another finger. There, my thumb just sounds like it's just another finger. The other thing that we're listening for is a gap between two of the fingers, or an uneven gap. I should be a bit more specific. We're trying to see or hear if there's a pause between two notes that shouldn't be there. We do want a tremolo to sound absolutely even rhythmically as well. Like that, not like that's when your tremolo starts to sound really gappy. So once again, it's the same thing. We need to be listening really closely and try to find out where the gap is. Easier said than done in a lot of cases, but it can be done. We just need to listen very carefully. So this is the gap between thumb and annular, which I think is the most common one. So we've got, I hear that quite a bit in students. So there I can see there's a gap between P and A. So what I want to try to do is shorten that gap. So what we're gonna, when we practice it, we'll do something like this. So I've really sped up or lessened the distance between P and A. Like that. Da, 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 da. And then eventually we should end up with a very smooth tremolo. Oops. Hey everybody, it's time for me to go, but thank you all for taking time out of your day to hang out with me here on the live stream, the NBN Guitar live stream. If you're interested in what I get up to during the week and stuff, please consider following me on Instagram and Facebook. You just have to type in NBN Guitar and you should be able to find me easily enough. Yeah, it's time for me to sign out and go and take care of my daddy obligations. I wish you all a happy Tremolo week, and I shall see you next Monday.